And just like that, we lost everything. And this is why you stockpile your pantry and you preserve your harvest in multiple ways. Guten yardening, everybody. Well, last week at this time, there was no smile on my face because we made a discovery that is still, right now, teaching us a lesson about becoming self-sufficient. And that lesson's very simple. We cannot store all of our food that we harvest using a single method. We sent our youngest gardener in training to go get some frozen vegetables for one of our recipes, actually to get some frozen tomatoes. And she came back with a soggy bag. And I think perhaps you know where this is going. Both of our freezers, which were connected to the same nice quality surge protector, were off. And honestly, I don't know how it happened, but we didn't catch it in time, and everything inside had thawed out. Any meat we had and all the vegetables were no longer good. When you've worked as hard as we have at growing our own food, and you go and see something like this, and I would say we had probably about 55 pounds of food left in there that was no longer good. That is a devastating feeling. I guess on a positive note, we at least got a lot of our vegetables eaten because it didn't happen at the beginning of the winter. If that had happened, I cannot imagine what that would have been like to go through the winter without the food that we had saved. So what I really want to talk about in this video are ways that we can stockpile, ways that we can preserve that are different, that vary from just a single method, because we definitely don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket, because now we see what that leads to. And yes, if you're wondering, those freezers are no longer connected to that surge protector. They're plugged directly into the wall. All right, let's start by talking a little bit about on-demand harvesting. And of course, for Zone 5, which is where we live, that period of time where we can stockpile our pantry and really harvest those vegetables isn't all that long. And that's one of the reasons why we need to go ahead and make sure we're preparing for other methods of preservation. So while we absolutely enjoy getting out here and harvesting, and last season, we had some absolutely massive harvests, some beautiful harvests, and we highly encourage you to go check those out while we're getting ready for our upcoming big harvest here over the next couple of weeks. But we love that piece, but we know we can't depend on that for our fruits and vegetables because, again, our growing season is rather short here in Zone 5. Now, where this might work for us, this on-demand piece in terms of stocking and keeping things stocked for us over the winter, would be with our quail eggs and with our quail meat. Right now we're averaging over 40 eggs a day, so we have plenty of eggs coming in, although there are other methods that we're going to use for storing those eggs in addition to just eating them fresh. Now, one of the methods of preservation that we're going to take advantage of more this season is pickling. And one of the advantages of pickling is that you can take a vegetable and really transform it taste-wise. I guess some people might consider that to be a disadvantage to some extent because you are going to modify the taste of whatever fresh vegetable you were using. But you can take a vegetable, pickle it, and then extend the life of a vegetable that way. One of the things that I love to make is pickled eggs, and so we have plenty of quail eggs. We make pickled quail eggs. I know some people absolutely love pickled asparagus. Haven't tried that yet, but that's on our list. And one personal favorite of mine would be our refrigerator pickles. And with refrigerator pickles, you can take the life of a cucumber and extend it out a couple of months, and the taste is absolutely superb. Now, I know there are lots of different recipes online, lots of recipes for us to try with different pickle flavors, but that's just one way that we can preserve some of the food that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. Now, one of the challenges with this is it is going to take up some refrigerator space because pickling requires refrigeration generally because it's not canned, and we'll get to canning in a little bit. But we think this is a great way of preserving in a different style than just, say, freezing. Now, another method of food preservation that we like a lot and that we've done some work with in the past, but we will definitely expand on this year, is dehydration. We have a dehydrator. We've used it to dehydrate sweet potatoes, some of our kale. We've used it for dehydrating the tops off of onions to create onion powder. And one of the nice things about dehydration is that the vegetables that you dehydrate or the fruit that you dehydrate typically lasts anywhere from 4 months to a year. And because it's dehydrated, it means you don't have to use refrigerator space, so you can use pantry space for this instead. It's typically pretty lightweight because you're removing all the moisture from it as well. And for some fruits and vegetables, you can reintroduce moisture if you'd like to. I mean, that's entirely up to you. I know that the dehydration process does impact taste, but at the same time, it's a great way of expanding the life of your vegetable. And one of the other things I like about dehydrating fruits and vegetables is it gives you an opportunity to prepare them in a way that you might not have done before. I mean, when we took our sweet potatoes and we dehydrated them, that let us powderize them. The same thing with our kohlrabi, and then we turn that powder into, we've done soups with it, we've also made ice cream with it, so there's lots of cool options available to you. Now this does require that you get a dehydrator or you have an oven that you can dehydrate in, but the end result is a great storage method that doesn't take up fridge space. It's going to keep your fruits and vegetables for much longer than just the fresh harvest. Now, another method of preservation that I'm incredibly excited about, because I've only just started experimenting with this, is fermentation. Now, the only fermenting I've done so far is with a radish that we had last year where we made kakdugi, which is basically like a radish kimchi, and it was absolutely delicious. What I can tell you about fermenting though, and my Korean audience could certainly speak to this better than I can, but you get a ton of life out of your vegetables in terms of preservation, upwards of a year and a half in some cases. Now, unfortunately for us, when I made that kakdugi, it didn't last that long because it was so delicious. I ate it quite quickly. But we're excited to try a wide range of vegetables and fermenting this season. So many of the vegetables that we grow here are a perfect fit for fermentation. Cauliflower, our beets, carrots, and so on. One thing I'd really like to try making this year is sauerkraut. What I've read about fermenting though is that it actually is easier for us to digest the vegetables that are fermented, and I've read in some cases the nutritional value of the vegetables actually increases during the process of fermentation. I'm not an expert on any of that, but I am excited to give this additional method a try. One of the cool things about being in this process of learning is that we get to experiment around with all these methods, especially ones that we've never done before. And one of those is freeze drying. Now, if you've tried freeze drying in the past, we'd love to hear how that worked out for you. One of the things we've read is that we can actually use our freezer, our deep freeze, to do the freeze drying process, and that it probably is going to take us a couple of weeks to do this. But then freeze dried vegetables have some pretty cool benefits, as well as the fruits. They retain their color, they retain their nutritional value. So that's big for us. And then I read somewhere that freeze-dried vegetables and fruits can last up to 25 years. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that piece. But this is another way that we can diversify. And what's really cool about this is freeze-dried food, once that's done and all of that moisture is gone from those vegetables and from those fruits, they don't have to be stored in the freezer. They can actually be stored out of the refrigerator in an area or in a cellar even, and so we can keep those for a long period of time without taking up additional freezer space. Now, I think I'd actually be doing a big disservice to what we've done in the past if I don't mention that one of our favorite methods of preserving our food and really getting that food stock up is using the freezer, because there aren't that many vegetables that can't be frozen. And the benefits of doing that, I mean, we've had tomatoes that we've frozen that have lasted for several years. We've frozen peppers, we've frozen eggplant, you know, some blanching in there. It's a pretty simple and quick process. The only thing is that if something does go wrong with your freezer, you know, if you have an area where there are power outages that are pretty regular, then you could run into trouble. Or if, like in our case, for whatever reason, the power shuts off altogether, even if you didn't have a power outage, you can run into some problems. But it's a great method of food preservation if you have the freezer space. Now, the last method, and the one that I have to say I'm personally the most excited about, because, you know, I grew up in a family who canned, and really I guess I'm kind of embarrassed to say that we haven't done that in the past. We haven't focused our time on that. And in this box we have our brand new canner. This is the start of an entirely different journey. When we talk about packing up our pantry, this is going to bring us a long way in that food preservation journey towards self-sufficiency. Now, if you're somebody who's been canning for a very long time and you have some favorite recipes or you have some advice for us, we would love to hear that advice. Because as I said, we are brand new to this, but we know, and I have certainly eaten plenty of canned foods 3, 4 years out from the time of canning. We know the benefits of canning and the fact that this is going to enable us to move our dependence away from our freezer over to our pantry. Well, this to us is a big deal. Well, I don't think I need to unbox it the whole way for you to see that this right here, that represents greater food security. It represents stability when it comes to saving and preserving our wonderful harvests. Well, right now in my mind, I'm thinking about canned potatoes. I'm thinking about all the other things that we're going to do over the next couple of months as our harvests start piling in. I never want to have to come on here and say again, we lost everything. There's nothing at all enjoyable about losing your hard work and losing that security, that food security that we had tried to put into place. And we're not going to let that happen again because we're going to diversify our storage. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video today and found it useful and informative. If you have any questions for us, you can always leave us a comment and let us know. If you did enjoy today's video, don't forget to give us a like. Remember to share and subscribe. And most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.